Revenge. With her AP wife. My wife had an affair with me. I cheated again on the AP wife. I informed my wife, and now I have to listen to her and our marital counselor tell me I'm just as horrible as she is. It's total nonsense in my opinion. I would not have cheated if she had not initially cheated. My goal was to avenge myself, if that's even possible. Backstory. About a year ago, I discovered that my wife was having an affair. On our shared computer, I discovered images and texts. When I challenged her, she lied, saying I'm insane and making everything up in my brain. Then I showed her the photocopies. She then began slowly telling me the truth. I'd had enough and called the AP wife. She was distraught, but she was my sole source of truth in this scenario. For 3 months, the romance consisted of texts sent at all hours of the day and night. My wife disabled her phone's notifications. They also had virtually every week. Even after all of that, she wanted to remain with me. We began marital therapy. My major incentive, I will confess, was money. I had just sold my company and didn't want to walk away with half of the money that represented 15 years of my life. While all of this was going on, I was speaking with the AP wife on a regular basis. She had evicted him from the home. My wife refused to leave or give me any space at all. My phone rang one night. She normally texted, and it was the AP wife. She was having a hard night and needed to speak with someone. That conversation led to more flirting back and forth, and then I told her I was going to stop by. She said that she would appreciate it. So I went over to the AP house and drank his beer while having with his wife in their living room. This went on for approximately a month. It came to an end when I informed my wife after a heated dispute. Look, I realize this is a horrible scenario, and I should probably pack my belongings and go. I understand that this isn't a mature way to cope with an affair. But it wasn't until I H up with the AP wife that I felt I could go back and work on my marriage. I was no longer humiliated or miserable. So, am I mistaken in thinking that this is retaliation? Is it justifiable? Story 2. Wife cheated on me and we are divorcing. Hurt and confused. To give you some context, I met my SDBXW when I was 17 and she was 16. We began dating in early 2016 and hit it off right away. We immediately progressed to seeing one another all the time and working together. I eventually moved in with her family and remained for over 2 years. I fell in love with my SDBXW at this period. She came across as self-assured, fiery, and kind. It always seemed like she did everything it needed to make her family and myself happy. As a result, I grew extremely close to her family, and I knew her sisters, mother, and grandmother, as well as a couple of her relatives and uncles, very well. Of course, living together at such a young age was probably not the ideal choice, and we did argue. Much of it had to do with the fact that I was living with her family. But working for $10 per hour part-time is no way to move out or even obtain a car. Of course, I did all I could to make her happy, including changing jobs and taking out loans, but there was always something between us. I knew we loved one another, but she was always irritated because we still lived with relatives. We eventually separated up in 2018 and hadn't seen each other in around 8 months. She took it hard at first, but I was certain that we had a poisonous relationship that needed to be ended. She dated other guys and concentrated on her job throughout this period. As for me, I enrolled in college, where I am about to obtain my associate's degree, and began taking work seriously, as a consequence of which I have now secured my ideal job as of last week. I want to be honest about this because I believe we both improved and matured over our time apart, which is one of the reasons I wanted to try again with her. Another thing to remember is that during all of this, her family and mine remained hopeful that we would work things out. Yes, even as she dated other people, which we luckily did. We reunited, moved in together, and finally married in December 2019. I was so delighted that I sobbed in front of our whole family, and just thinking about it makes me weep. Things were terrific at first. Though was fantastic, we communicated quite well, and we continued to pursue our own vocations. Our relationship, however, altered once we both obtained new jobs. I started working as a correctional officer in a detention facility near my home in July of this year, It was difficult. My anxiety was out of control, and I suffered panic attacks on a daily basis. My SDBXW, on the other hand, had just been in a vehicle accident with her brand new truck, which had been damaged, and she had been injured as a result. Needless to say, we had issues. Her apparently usual caring demeanor deteriorated into resentment and wrath. When I told her about my nervousness, she would say things like, "You need to get over it. You're a grown man, stop weeping," or "You're being a bee," which was incredibly cruel. I tried to be accessible to her as well, but working 12-hour hours and overtime made it difficult. Yes, we battled. We were never aggressive, but we could speak about the same topics for hours on end. Despite this, I had the impression that my SDBXW loved me and was just going through a difficult time. I ultimately overcame my anxieties and went on to my ideal profession in IT. However, in order to cope, my SDBXW began to become closer to another coworker, at least, that's what I suspect. It seemed harmless enough at first, just working together, texting, and the odd phone conversation, and it never troubled me. Then she intensified things and began meeting him every day after work for breakfast. She works nights, and on a regular basis, when she was on the phone with him, she would tell me not to speak because then he wouldn't talk, as she put it. I didn't like it, but I still trusted my wife. When I asked her about their connection, she said that they were just friends. However, she would not text me, would ignore my calls, and would occasionally spend the night without informing me. This all came to a head when she remained with him all day and night and didn't return home or interact with anybody. She claimed that she didn't notice my calls the following morning, but it wasn't until she pushed that she revealed further information. According to what I gather, she not only disregarded my calls, but also got intoxicated with him and other individuals who were there. She allegedly attempted to walk out nude, to which he allegedly aggressively grabbed her arm and told her, "Don't be effing foolish, what are you doing?" She allegedly didn't hear my calls because he placed her phone on quiet, which he disputes. She still maintains they didn't sleep together to this day, but I don't believe her. For almost 2 days, I attempted to persuade her to be honest with me and stop communicating with this guy, but she resisted, practically weeping when I begged her to and stating he'd be upset. I was wounded and angered that she could abandon me so easily, so I left and lived with my folks for a week. She did email me often, begging me to come home, but I kept ordering her to stop communicating with him, and she didn't. She even attempted to fake it, but he still contacted her. I know this because I paid her phone bill and saw his number on there all the time. I ultimately returned to her under the guise that we would work anything out, but that's when everything went south. During the 1 week I was gone, she bought a brand new vehicle from him, took out a $10,000 loan from him, and even opened a utility bill in his name. Furthermore, he was always in our flat, and she was always with him. I was wounded, yet I still attempted to smooth things out, which I really regret. That was maybe the most difficult week of my life. My SDBXW, whom I had loved and been with for years, told me she doesn't love me and never has, that asking her to remain with me was sad, and that I repulsed her. I was shattered. I wanted to put an end to my life. I phoned her mother for help. Her husband had cheated on her. I knew it was bad, but I had no one to turn to and was feeling more alone than I had ever felt. I eventually moved back home with my parents and informed her that I was leaving for good. Suddenly, her demeanor shifted, and she said that she wanted me back and didn't want to lose me. I was overjoyed and sadly conversed with her. This barely lasted 1 night. I attempted to ask her why she felt the need to cheat instead of talking to me about it, but she became enraged and told me I needed to let it go and go on. Bear in mind, she just confessed to cheating 1 day before. I'm not flawless, and I believe that anybody else in my circumstances would have preferred honesty and closure. Her family agrees with her and has attempted to speak to her, only to be told the same things. We had an on/off relationship for a week, with her continually repeating, "I don't know what I want." She blamed me for the adultery, claiming that since I left, she had no option, which I call nonsense. My last conversation with her was on Sunday, October 24th, and it did not go well. Her grandpa is now in the hospital, so I went to see him. Her whole family was furious when she arrived in the pickup with this guy. I, her sister, and her sister's boyfriend sat and chatted with my SDBXW and this guy, and he brushed us off and handled it as if it were a joke, stating that things simply happen and that's why he's with my SDBXW, saying that he knows we don't like him, but consistently insulting us. Meanwhile, my SDBXW scarcely said anything and allowed him insult and lie to us. Her sister, who urged me to keep trying to speak to SDBXW, eventually told me she wasn't worth it and disowned her in front of me. My SDBXW now blames me for this, claiming that it is my responsibility that her family no longer likes her, and that they will never accept this person because of me. That was the end of it. I remained with the family for a bit, and they all told me they loved me, felt sad for me, couldn't understand how mom could do this, but that they would always be there for me. Now for the real kicker. So a little background on this guy. He is 39 years old. That's correct. According to what I understand, he is manipulative, violent, and does not want her to visit me or her family. I haven't seen him hit her, but I have heard him curse at her and say improper things to her over the phone. When I or her relatives call her, he will purposefully be loud on the phone, pitch in with nonsense, and continually chat to her. Things that are quite infantile. She stated that he purposefully provokes me in the hopes that I would do something so that he can have me jailed. This guy also has a daughter my SDBXW's age and thinks it acceptable. Needless to say, he's a throughout it all. I've been on an emotional roller coaster. I'm always feeling inadequate, wounded, terrified, and furious. I'm not sure why my SDBXW cheated on me with someone who abuses her. Nonetheless, I still desire her and want to assist her. I know it's a fantasy, but I can't help myself. I'm also concerned that she could be correct. What are your thoughts? Is it wrong for me to feel wounded by her cheating? Is it possible that I manipulated her family by turning to them for help? Is it all my fault, as my wife claims? I honestly don't know. Update. I submitted the divorce papers, and they were approved by the court. I'm arranging for the papers to be served while she's at work. Some individuals are inquiring about assets and my legal responsibilities in relation to what she's doing with her AP. We have nothing in common. Nothing. Our banks, automobiles, and anything else of considerable worth are all separate, so there should be no need for or chance of my losing anything. Furthermore, the documents she is co-signing with her AP do not include my name or identify me in any way. As a result, I have no legal standing there either. The phone bill, on the other hand, is in my name. I just cut her connection. I've called her family and informed them that I'm taking a step back from them for the time being, which they think is the best answer. I'm seeing everything with a lot clearer mind right now, and I'm happy even without her. It's also nice to be reunited with my family. They're overjoyed to have me back, and I'm overjoyed to have some pleasant company for a change. Once all of the documentation is served and ready, all I have to do is wait through the waiting time and everything will be finalized. Thank you for your time.